Hello, I'm Dr. Aditya Sai. I'm a consultant in orthopedics, sports medicine, and arthroscopy at Seven Hills Hospital. So, acromioclavicular joint injuries are a topic of much debate. According to Rocode's classification, there are six varieties. The sixth variety, although is very rare. Now, when we talk about grade 1 and 2 injury, they are generally managed non-operatively, but grade 3 injuries cause a lot of debate. Essentially, what I believe in is if the individual is young, it's involving the dominant extremity, we should go for an operative version of the treatment. Non-operative treatment of acromioclavicular injuries, which are grade 3 and above, leads to higher incidence of acromioclavicular arthritis and disturbance in the shoulder biomechanics. So here we are seeing a grade 3 acromioclavicular joint injury. The patient had a fall in a road accident. Now he is a right hand dominant individual, 30 years old, and he works on a oil rig. So, considering his activity level, we decided to go for an arthroscopic assisted procedure to reduce the acromioclavicular joint. What if the same individual had presented in a delayed manner? In those cases, in addition to the arthroscopic tightrope fixation, we would have done uh, graft augmentation. Now, as you can see from this video, it's the biceps tendon, and behind that would be the conjoint tendon. Acromioclavicular joint injuries have an association with intra-articular pathologies such as labral tears, superior labral tears, and rotator cuff injuries. So it's always better to scope the joint and assess if there is any pathology inside which can be addressed in the same stage. In this individual, he had a slap tear. So the slap tear we managed with the debridement. Now, how to manage slap tears, that's a debate for some other time. But generally, in a grade 1 slap tear, I manage it with a debridement. With a grade 2 tear, some authors prefer a biceps tenotomy, some prefer to stabilize the labrum with the biceps anchor, and they will be fixing the slap tear. So, as I said, it's a matter of debate. Now, what if this individual had this injury quite some time back, let's say maybe 10 days back? Even in that case, the arthroscopic fixation with the dog bone button would have been augmented with a graft. I do only an isolated dog bone button fixation if the individual has an acute injury and presents to me within the first 1 week. So I believe at that point of time there is a potential for healing of the superior AC joint capsule as well as the coracoclavicular ligaments. Later on, the chances are less. When we talk about acromioclavicular fixation, there are multiple options available to us, including the technique defined by Mazoka, which was using a graft and fixing it with bioclinodesis screws in the clavicle. There are advantages and disadvantages of all the techniques. So, with the Mazoka technique, essentially we create two stress risers in the clavicle, and that can cause clavicular fractures. But it's a good technique for chronic acromioclavicular dislocations. The Weaver Dunn procedure is there. There is an option of a screw called the Bosworth screw, and then there is the dog bone button implant with which we can reduce the joint and fix it in the correct place. With regards to the Weaver Dunn technique, studies have shown that the pull-out strength with the Weaver Dunn technique is about 357 newtons. Now, if we consider the native coracoclavicular ligaments, the pull-out strength in the ligaments is about 750 newtons. So there is a chance for failure, and studies have shown a chance for failure of about 30% with the Weaver Dunn technique. What are the alternatives? So KY fixation is, I believe, a pathetic option, and I don't need to go into why we should not use KYs to fix the dislocations. There is an option of hook plating. Now, the issue with the hook plate is it rests in the subacromial space where it can cause impingement on the tendons of the rotator cuff. This is a serious issue because studies have shown that requirement for implant removal can happen in about 5 to 6% of the individuals who are undergoing fixation with a hook plate. Second issue is of cosmesis and implant prominence. So it's because of those reasons I don't prefer a hook plate for distal and clavicular fractures as well as acromioclavicular dislocations. Now, the advantage of this technique is minimally invasive, there are small incisions, and there is no risk for implant prominence. First, a posterior viewing portal is established through which we look into the joint, assess the labral pathology. Then, the most important two portals are the anterolateral portal, which will be the viewing portal, and the anterolateral subcoracoid portal, through which we'll be doing the instrumentation. So here you can see I'm using the cautery wand, and that's the undersurface of the coracoid. The exposure is similar to that we use for an arthroscopic Latarjet. The key point is we should stay lateral to the coracoid and avoid any unnecessary dissection away from the bone. As long as you stay on the bone, there is very less risk of neurovascular injury, and as long as you stay lateral to the conjoint tendon and the coracoid, the more you start wandering medially, there is a higher risk for injury. Although um, arthroscopy surgeons like Lafosse have shown that it's quite safe. But when you're starting up, always stay lateral to the coracoid. So after the cleaning the undersurface of the coracoid, we'll be putting a arthroscopic jig, something like an ACL jig, to pass the fiber wire. Now the jig, as you will show in a later picture, has a hook at the end. So the hook, it attaches to the medial end of the coracoid and gives you stability when you're drilling. So this is the jig I mentioned about. When we look at the drilling options, essentially we have two options with us. One is we can use a 2.4 mm or a 3.4 mm reamer which comes with the kit. It is hollow and we can pass the nitinol wire through it. The other option is to use a guide pin and then overdrill it with a 4 mm reamer. Now the thing we need to keep in mind is 4 mm reamer although makes the passage of the sutures easy. However, with the 4 mm reamer we can have a issue of stress riser at the clavicle. So generally I prefer the 2.4 mm reamer. So as you can see here, the reamer has exited. I'll just withdraw it a bit and then we'll be passing the nitinol wire. Nitinol wire will be brought out through the subcoracoid portal and through that we'll be looping around the sutures, that is the fiber wire which are attached to the dog bone button. The pull-out strength of a dog bone button construct with two fiber tapes is approximately 1400 newtons, which is twice that of the native coracoclavicular ligaments. So that gives a very good and stable fixation. The point which is worth considering here is we should have a good coracoid bone stock on which the fixation happens. We should not go either too far medial or too far lateral, otherwise there is a risk for coracoid fracture. So always centralize the drill pin when you are drilling the coracoid. So here you can see I'm grasping the Natilon loop with a tissue grasper we brought out, and this will be followed by the insertion of the fiber tape attached to the dog bone button. As you can see, I'm pulling the fiber tape inside. The cautery wand is not used for any specific purpose other than just to retract the tissues. With acromioclavicular joint dislocations, the key thing we need to keep in mind is how to reduce it. We do not need to push the clavicle down, it is the shoulder that we need to push up. Essentially, in a acromioclavicular dislocation, what happens is it's the shoulder that is drooping, it's not a high riding clavicle. Now, the important thing after this step is to ensure that the button is flipped in a horizontal way that it grasps the inferior surface of the coracoid. So I'm using a soft tissue grasper to change the direction of the button. So once this is flipped properly, I've tightened the button with a similar button on the superior surface of the clavicle, seen the reduction on the fluoroscope, and then I reintroduced the arthroscope. Well, as you can see, there is a bit of bleeding there. That's from the drilling we have done. So we'll just check the status of the button post reduction. This is a very simple, straightforward procedure, and it's very easy to perform. It takes about half an hour, 45 minutes in my operating room, and the patient can be discharged the same or the next day. The risk for infection is very less, and there is obviously no risk for implant prominence. For distal clavicle fractures, the same procedure can be done. there is a special plate that comes with Arthrex. So the advantage of the Arthrex plate is that this button can be fitted on top of the plate and fixed to similar dog bone button on the lower surface of the coracoid. So this is the post-operative X-ray, and you not exactly the post-operative X-ray. It's the intra-op X-ray, and it shows good reduction of the acromioclavicular joint. So if you have any questions, you can definitely mention in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you.